Welcome to the groovy 70s, Montreal's cinema revolution. Fasten your seatbelts. We're heading back to the decade of disco, bell-bottoms, and a massive transformation in how Montrealers watched movies. From the birth of the Cine Park craze to the rise of adult cinemas and the Star Wars gold rush, here is your definitive timeline of the 1970s Montreal film scene. The early 1970s in Montreal were a wild ride for moviegoers. The city's cinematic landscape was shifting fast, marked by a massive explosion of drive-ins, a booming adults-only scene, and a tug-of-war between French and English screens. Here is the breakdown of those transformative years. 1970, the year of the drive-in. The decade kicked off with a summer dedicated to watching movies under the stars. June 19, the Montreal area gets its very first drive-in with the opening of Cine Park St. Matthew. July 3rd, John Didzak joins the fray, opening Cine Park Boucherville. August 14, the outdoor trend continues as Cine Park Chateauguay opens its gates in Mercier. November 6th, a shift in programming begins as the Francais Theatre transforms into the Eros, pivoting to English adult films. The adult takeover. Secure Cinema Investments makes a power move, snatching up the Electra from Odeon and the Imperial and La Parisienne from Famous Players to convert them into adult cinemas. Meanwhile, the Bijou begins showing adult films, and the Cinéma Parallèle opens at 1237 Sanguinet. Closures. It's the end of an era for the Underground Film Center, which closes its doors. 1971, rebranding and bold moves. January 1st, Secure Cinema Investments officially takes over the Imperial Theatre. January 8th, Nick Palermo pulls a double act at La Québécoise Étoile, featuring kiddie matinees by day and adult films by night. May 31st, the Gazette teases a new Jerry Lewis cinema for the West End, but the project famously never materializes. August 6th, the Marquis gets a new identity as La Québécoise 2 Marquis. October 29th, a big day for film. Les Cinémas du Vieux Montréal opens for the art house crowd, while Cine Park St. Eustache launches as the largest drive-in in Canada. November 17, the Art Theatre gets a name change to the Piccadilly. December 25th, United Amusements gives Montreal a Christmas gift, the city's only double-screen drive-in, the Dollard Drive-In Twin, catering to both French and English audiences. December 27th, the Midway re-emerges as the Eve, leased to Secure Cinema Investments for adult screenings.
New Horizons, Famous Players rebrands its Quebec theaters as Cinémas Unis,
while also selling the Outmont to Roland Smith, creating the city's first French-language repertory theater. Other changes. The Snowden stops its adult run, the Guy starts its own, and the Vendôme falls under Secure Cinema's wing. Sadly, the Lido in Laval closes for good. 1972. Expansion and new identities. January. France Film expands the Saint-Denis Theatre, adding the Chevalier and Pierrot cinemas. June 23rd, Cine Park Vaudreuil opens with a French-language lineup. July 7th, Cine Park Mont Saint Eustache joins the summer circuit. July 22nd, the Marseille opens in Repentigny, focusing on second-run French films. August 4th,
Ciné Parc Saint-Eustache gets even bigger, adding a third screen for English movies. November 11th, the old Capri finds new life as Maxi 1. November 24th, the Monaco is rebranded as La Québécoise Rue. December 15, the Cinéma 7e Art opens at the old Montrose Theatre, dedicated to French repertory cinema. Industry shifts. The Comédie Canadienne stops showing movies, and English-language films disappear from Centre Laval, Greenfield Park, and Laval locations. Meanwhile, Cinéma Parc in Verdun goes adult, and Videographie and the Vogue Adult both open their doors. 1973. Raids and Final Curtains. February 2nd. The old Regent is resurrected as Le Baber, an English adult house. February 8th. Drama off-screen. Authorities raid the Eve Cinema and the Chomedy Theatre during a screening of Sex and the Office. February 9th. The Annex Bar on Bishop Street starts a side hustle showing movies. March 9th. The La Québécoise family grows again, as the old La Salle reopens as La Québécoise 4. April 13. To stop the confusion with Westmount Square, the Westmount Theatre is renamed the Claremont. June 1st. Ciné Parc Repentigny opens. July 20th. John Didzak launches Ciné Parc Laval. It's so popular, it adds a second screen by August 4th. September 14, the Venice Theatre in Saint-Césaire reopens. November 24th, a dark day for historic screens, as the Capitol and Pigalle both close. Other 1973 casualties include the Savoy in Verdun and the Verdi. Corporate moves. Mann Theatres exits Canada, selling its National General Cinemas locations to Canadian Theatres of St. Catharines. 1974. The rise of the adult cinema and the Guzzo legacy. The year started with a bold shift toward blue cinema and the birth of a local powerhouse. January 6th, the System Theatre kicks off the year by transforming into the Cine 539 adult cinema. January 18, a double feature of openings. Secure Cinema Investments reopens the Alouette as Les Pigalle, specializing in French adult films. Meanwhile, the National Theatre goes budget-friendly, showing French films for just $1. February 1st, Sam Gabamonte brings movies to the South Shore, opening the twin-screen Omega Cinemas at the Kmart Plaza in Longueuil. March 29th, the Lucerne Theatre in Saint-Laurent gets a futuristic makeover, renaming itself Cinema 2001. April 5th, a historic moment. Angelo Guzzo reopens the former Maxi 1 as Les Paradis. This adult film house marks the official beginning of the cinema's Guzzo chain. May 3rd, Odeon goes al fresco with the Ciné Parc Odeon, its first French-language drive-in, featuring 2 screens. May 24th, Cinema Investments doubles down by reopening the Imperial Theatre as the Ciné Centre, a twin-screen venue for French adult and grindhouse fans. May, the Cinéma V transforms into the home of blue movies, La Maison des Films Érotiques. However, the flame burns out quickly, and it closes by year-end. September 13, United Amusements breathes new life into the Chateau, reopening it as a French-language twin cinema. September 20th, Sheldon Kagan brings The Flick to life, offering English movies across 2 screens. September 27th, the Rivoli joins the twinning trend, reopened by United Amusements. October 18, the Cinéma du Vieux Montreal pivots to English male adult films under the new name Encore. December 25th, a Christmas gift for moviegoers, the Popinot reopens as a twin cinema. Final curtain, 1974. The Rex closes its doors, and Les Parisiennes shuts down to begin a massive 5-screen reconstruction. 1975. Innovation and the Rocky Horror era. This year saw a major technological first for Canada and the start of a cult classic tradition. April 18. The Cinéma Encore is rebranded as Babette and Bridget Cinemas, focusing on English adult films. June 19. History is made at the Cine Park Academy Drive-In in Kanawake. It's Canada's first drive-in to ditch pole speakers for radio sound. August 22nd, Quebec enters the multiplex era. United Amusements opens the province's first ever multiplex at Centre Laval, primarily showing French films. August 29th, the Côte Saint-Laurent Cinema opens its doors for English-speaking audiences. October 3rd, the Eden opens inside one screen of the Ciné Centre for English adult films, but vanishes by the end of the year. October 9th, the new Les Parisiennes makes its grand debut with 5 screens spread across multiple floors. The transition of Cinéma V. After its adult phase, Cinéma V pivots to English repertory films, eventually becoming the legendary home of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Policy shifts. The Popinot switches to French adult films, while the Cinéma de Paris stops its French-language screenings. Final curtain, 1975. Lowe's closes for a 5-screen rebuild, and the Vendôme Cinema and the cinema at Galeries d'Anjou is demolished for mall expansion.
1976. Olympic fever and multiplex mania. As the Olympic torch arrived in Montreal, the theater scene was busier than ever. February 5th. Canadian Theatres reopens the Bonaventure as a twin venue. One screen shows standard English films, while the other goes adult. February 20th. The Cinema Place Victoria reopens, starting with French films before switching to English by year's end. April 2nd. The Ciné Park Pont Mercier in Kanawake stirs up trouble by reopening and illegally showing English adult movies. April 30th. France Film opens the 4-screen Cinémas Le Complexe des Jardins. June. John Didzak hands over the keys to his Laval and Boucherville drive-ins, selling them to Canadian theaters. July 16th. Just as the Olympic torch arrives in Montreal, the Odeon Champlain reopens as a twin cinema for first-run French movies. August 6th. Odeon takes over the Alouette, renaming it the Carrefour. October. The Rex finds a new identity as the Carré Saint-Louis, showing French adult films. October 29th. Greenfield Park gets bigger by getting smaller, splitting its largest screen to create a 3-screen layout. November 5th. The Versailles Salle Bleue splits into 2, bringing the venue's total to 3 screens. December 15th. The Montagnard Mall in Beloeil joins the party with 2 screens for French sub-run films.
Now, at a theater near you, you can see the most exciting, original motion picture event of all time.
Open the gate!
King Kong.
December 17th. The legendary Lowe's reopens as a 5-screen powerhouse. It debuts with King Kong playing in English, French, and Italian. December 24th. A Christmas Eve opening for Odeon Laval Hypermarché, Centre 2000, a new twin cinema for French-language films. Ownership shifts. United Amusements sells the Seville to Repertory owners, and the Mathers Group takes over Ciné-Parc Repentigny. Final curtain, 1976. We said goodbye to the Annex in June, the Granada, the National, the Pigalle, the 2001 Cinema in Saint Laurent, and the Fifth Avenue in Verdun. 1977, the year of the Force. If 1977 had a theme song, it was the Star Wars score. The year saw the landscape of Quebec cinema shift forever under the weight of box office gold and industry shakeups. January 7th. Repentigny gets a new local hub as Cinémas Rive Nord opens its doors, catering to the French-speaking audience. March 4th. Adult cinema hits downtown as Cinema X takes over the old Imperial Theater. The experiment is short-lived, closing before the year is out. March 18th. Odeon expands the English-language market with a 2-screen opening at Décarie Square. April 4th. United Amusements follows suit, debuting the triple-screen La Cité for English moviegoers. June 3rd. Expansion continues at Dorval Theaters, which adds a 3rd screen just in time for the summer rush. June 24th. Star Wars mania arrives. In a bold move, Canadian theaters outbids the giants, famous players, and Odeon to secure the rights. The film opens at the Bonaventure, Place Victoria, both screens at Côte de Neige, and the Eustache and Chateauguay drive-ins. August. History is made at Le Parisien, which hosts Montreal's very first film festival. August 12th. Cinémas Gouzeau breathes new life into the Paradis, reopening it with 3 screens. September 16th. Odeon builds its final Canadian cinema, a 3-screen French-language complex at Brossard's Champlain Mall. December 1st. The Star Wars windfall pays off. Michael Zahorchak and Canadian Odeon use their earnings to buy out the entire Odeon chain, forming the powerhouse Canadian Odeon. Other highlights of 1977. La Québécoise. Chomedy opens in Laval, sticking to the chain's signature style. The Ritz is reborn as Boita Films under Bissette and Blanchard management. The Ouimetoscope rises again at the former Canadienne/Festival site. The Périot and Châteauguay cinemas get a rebrand as Saint-Denis 2 and 3. The final curtain, closures. The Regal, Montreal Nord, also shuttered Ciné Center, Cinéma de Charlemagne, Festival, Flic, Maisonneuve, Plaza, and the Ciné-Parc Pont-Mercier in Kanawak. 1978. Drive-ins and rebrands. The momentum of the 70s continued with a focus on suburban expansion and niche markets. May 19th. The Ciné-Parc Laval reopens in a big way with 4 screens, primarily featuring French-language hits. August 28th. Terrebonne gets a name change. The Figaro is now officially Cinéma Terrebonne. October 20th, the Omega Mascouche opens its 2-screen doors for fans of second-run French cinema. November 15th, Boîte à Films undergoes another transformation, becoming Cinéma Lumière. The global screen. The old Verdi Theatre finds new life as the Pagoda, specializing in Chinese-language films. Meanwhile, La Conventum has a blink-and-you-miss-it run, opening and closing in the same year. The final curtain. Closures. The Canadienne, Côte Saint-Luc, Electra, and Videographie. 1979. Expansion and multi-screens. As the decade drew to a close, more was the name of the game, with drive-ins adding screens and cinemas splitting their auditoriums. April 13th. The Cinéparc Boucherville doubles its capacity with a second screen. April 14th. Adult cinema moves into Montreal Nord with the opening of La Québécoise 6, Majestic. April 19th. Cinéparc Vaudreuil adds a second screen. June 1st. Cinéparc Repentigny follows the trend, adding its own second screen. June 15th. Cinema 365 opens in Pointe-Claire for second-run films, but vanishes by August 15th. June 29th. Cinéparc Saint-Eustache becomes a titan, adding 2 screens for a massive 5-screen total, including one dedicated to English films. September 10th. The Omega is rebranded as Cinémas Mascouche after being swallowed by the Guzzo-Canadian Odeon partnership. December 21st. Just before the new decade, Canadian Odeon splits the Atwater 1 into 2, bringing the theater's total to 3 screens. The final curtain. Closures. Cinema 365, Harlequin, Carrefour, Midi Minuit, and the Place Victoria. Thanks for taking this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Montreal's cinematic history, don't forget to like and subscribe.